15 is proof of work. In this lesson, and the consensus algorithm introduced in the blockchain explained in the last class, I explained proof of work, which is currently introduced in many public chains. If a traitor appears and the transaction is falsified, the fundamental purpose of distributing value will be lost because it lacks reliability. As example representing it, when we explain proof of work, Byzantine general's problem is generally quoted. So I explain Byzantine general's problem. The Byzantine Empire surrounds the city to attack it. In order to defeat it, attack of all nine troops are necessary. Even one unit lack and the empire will lose. For that reason, there are only options for choosing to attack by the full army or the full army withdraw. It is decided that each general declares attack or withdrawal and decides strategy by majority decision, because they could not gather and be able to hold a conference. If the four generals declare withdrawal and the other generals declare attack, and the remaining general is a traitor, he tells the general who shows intention withdrawing withdrawal, and the general who shows intention attack. So each unit will believe that the full army is attacking or withdrawing. Then the units of attack will lose with insufficient strength. Moreover, complicating the problem is that because generals are physically away from each other, they have to make the messenger convey attack or withdrawing. But he may fail to deliver the boats and they may be replaced with false boats. In other words, Byzantine general's problem is the problem about what measures should be taken against the possibility that there are smart rebels and that information transmission will not be successful due to some problems. In the case that you are trying to form consensus among multiple members of an organization, the same thing can happen in the blockchain, and it is possible for malicious node to get profit by generating block including forced transaction by telling the surrounding nodes the contents of transactions relating without permission. So the strategy taken in the public chain is so simple that those who find the right answer can get economic benefit, and it is called the proof of work, which enables consensus formation by unspecified number of participants. Then I explain the mechanism of proof of work. When transactions are made in blockchain, the data is stored in the transaction pool once. From among them, each node extracts several transaction data and passes them to the hash function, and then packs hash value calculated through hash function derived from a transaction, hash value of the previous block, and timestamp in block, and then packs an appropriate number called nonce, and finally calculates the hash value of that block. By the way, nonce stands for number at once and means disposable number used only once. Then the node that most early finds the nonce, which makes the hash value block with a fixed number of 0 as the head, is given the right to connect new block to the blockchain. This computation of discovery of nonce by calculation among nodes is called proof of work. Also, a node that initially succeeds in discovering nonce and connecting block to blockchain can be given cryptocurrency as a reward. Since it seems to dig coins in mine, we generally call a series of work mining, but I will treat detailed mechanisms in class about mining. If you try to falsify a past transaction to make it profitable for you, the hash value of the transaction will change and the hash value of the block will also change. Doing so will change the hash value of the block, which is put in next block. If you want to record the falsified transaction, you need to change all hash value. So, in order to catch up with the block being generated now and record the falsified data, you must calculate much earlier than other nodes. In other words, by introducing proof of work, since it is better to receive a mining reward rather than doing falsification of transactions, the collapse of the entire system due to betrayal like Byzantine general trouble doesn't happen.